This card is classic Christmas for me, with lots of tone-on-tone, subtle details, a lovely scripted ornament, and a pop of watercolour. I started with the Winter Bird set, a beautiful set, and you will for sure see me colouring some of these birds at some point. For now though, I wanted one of the snowy branches from the set to hang an ornament from. I added a piece of Fabriano Artistico extra white cold pressed watercolour card to the Mini Misty and stamped a branch in pumice stone distress ink. Usually I use antique linen, but I wanted to keep the tones cool rather than warm, and pumice stone fit the bill, apart from it's rather dark, to get that no-line watercoloured look, and so after inking up the stamp, I removed most of the ink with a cloth before stamping. I didn't tape the card to a board as I wouldn't be using a lot of water, and so there was no risk of warping. I'll play some music now while I paint and then come back to you to finish the card. I had a lot of fun at watercolouring this branch, aiming for those shadows and highlights to help bring it to life. Once I'd finished painting, I dried the piece and then took the matching dye, lined it up and held it in place with painter's tape while I ran it through my die cutting machine. Now for the ornament, and I used the Holiday Messages ornament stamp and die set. I love those scripty sentiments nestled perfectly in the matching die. I lined up for the messages on a piece of Archer's hot press watercolour card. I didn't end up using any watercolour on these, and so you could use an ivory card instead. I treated the card with anti-static powder and then stamped the greetings in clear embossing ink before sprinkling on Simon Says Stamp Antique Gold embossing powder and heat setting. I aligned the matching die over one of the ornaments, held it in place with painter's tape, and then cut around it before die cutting. I repeated for the other three ornaments, giving me lots of choice when putting this card together. I debated using multiple ornaments, but in the end decided on a single one. I also stamped and heat embossed the ornament topper from the stamp set too, and cut that out with a matching die. I set the focal points to one side while I worked on the background. I knew I wanted the branch and ornament to be the star of the show, and yet I wanted there to be at least some subtle interest going on behind them too. And so I used the Peace, Joy, Hope, Love stencil. I used a piece of watercolour card so that everything matched, but also because I like the texture on cold pressed watercolour card too. I laid the stencil on the card and then secured on the back with painter's tape. I then used Distress Grit Paste in Snowfall. This is part of the holiday texture set from Tim. I swiped the paste over the stencil with a palette knife, aiming for a random coverage in the centre of the card. To add more interest, I decided to add some gold splatter. I like the Fine Tech palette of metallic watercolours because it has a variety of gold options. I matched the gold embossing to the best gold option and then added light splatter over the background. When dry, I trimmed the background to fit on an A2 card base cut and scored from Fog Card and adhered with 3M foam tape. I also added tape to the back of the branch and ornament and added those to the card too. Excuse me, I seem to be losing my voice a little bit today. I tied a piece of twine into a loopy bow to add to the top of the ornament, but before I did that, I added glossy accents over the berries. I also added a sprinkling of eggshell pearls and crystal sequins from Little Things from Lucy's cards, and then pulled out the grit paste again and added a few mounds of it onto the branch with a palette knife. All these details are subtle: the tone-on-tone stenciled background, the pearls and sequins, the snowy branch and the white ornament on top, but they all come together to give a snowy scene with that classic vibe. That's me for today. There is a blog hop over on my blog with this post, and I'll leave a link in the description so that you can find that. And I'll also leave a link to the supplies that I've used. The supplies are part of the new Peace on Earth release from Science of Stamp, which I hope you'll check out, and I appreciate the support if you use my links when doing so. Thanks as always, and I'll see you next time.